So obviously, this is the post game where we just chop it up about different sports. The main topic, obviously, is just going to be this ridiculous situation that we just seen in regards to the Lions and the Cowboys. Um, Here's the reality. The reality is you have to check in, right? If you're an offensive lineman and they want to make you an eligible receiver, you have to check in with the ref. That's just the reality of it. If you don't do it, then there's going to be a flag, or the refs can figure out whether or not this person was eligible, and then throw the flag at that point. I think the big problem is this. I think nobody's seen the ref throw a flag. I think we've seen everybody celebrating. First, let me back up. We've seen a touchdown. We've seen everybody celebrating, and then at that point, we've seen the refs huddle up together way after we would normally see them. And then obviously it comes out that there's a flag and that this situation happened, and that the play didn't count. So then obviously they get another do at it, right? They had to redo it. At this point, I think the real question comes down to whether or not Dan Campbell made the best coaching decision that was right for his team. He then tries it again. Doesn't go. One more time. Doesn't go, because then there's going to be an offside by Micah Parson. And you would think at this point, you've been dawned on, you've been given the sign that you need to go ahead and kick the damn ball. You don't do it. You run into this situation. And then we end up having this conversation as far as, well, they could have did this and they could have did that and it could have went this way. And I think the reality is this. I think at the end of the day, Dan Campbell doesn't kick that field goal when he first had the chance to, when it was 4th and 2. There's your 3 points right there. That gets you the win for the game. Now, I say that loosely because obviously if you do take those 3 points, that changes the whole dynamic and the flow of how the game would have went. But if you did take those additional 3 points and made it a 1-point game, it would have been 7-6. Obviously, you put your team in a better situation to go out there and win it. And obviously, we know that hindsight is 20/20. But on paper, if you take that field goal, you basically win the game. So you probably shouldn't have been in this situation regardless. Having a need to, come down and hit an extra or take the 2-point conversion and win the game. It's really unfortunate, but I do want to address a couple of things as well as far as with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Dak Prescott throwing picks, getting sacked. Those are the kind of things that we have basically come to expect as far as Dak Prescott and these tough games. And I'll tell you this, the Cowboys didn't look like the juggernauts that we've known them to be at home. They're now 8-0, but this was a real test to them being, potentially beat at home. And you can kind of say, yeah, the Lions beat themselves, but I'm going to give credit where credit is due. There was a lot of interesting plays that Dak Prescott did that I think people did, definitely slept on, as far as when it came to Cooks, that big long bomb for Cooks, that big long bomb to CeeDee Lamb for the touchdown. I think it was 93 yards. That was a great play. Tony Pollard, I definitely think he's coming into his own on the run. It looks great. The real question is, what happened to the chemistry that the Cowboys had coming into this game at home? We do understand they had the 2 losses on the road, but at home they were juggernauts. At home they were blowing teams out. Then on the flip side, we get into the Lions, right? I was saying how the Lions were having troubles as far as, with their own defense. I didn't have too many qualms as far as with the offense. We know what, St. Brown can do. We know what Gibbs can do, and Montgomery, Laporta, Williams. But at the same time, things just weren't clicking for Jared Goff. He had a real tough time moving the ball. And then when they needed to specifically get the run going, they kind of abandoned it, went with the run, then they went with the pass. Then they went back to the run. And it was really just all over the place as far as the play calling. So I really wonder what's going on with, Dan Campbell and this offense right now, as far as figuring out the game plan moving forward. With that said, it wasn't really until the end of the third quarter, the start of the fourth, as far as where they really had to, change things to get things together. And then your back's up against the wall and you've got Goff now throwing a pick at one of the most critical points of the game. Obviously they get the ball back, fortunately, because of the defense and the flag that helped them out. But coming back and saying, all right, I'm going to, get down the field. I'm going to use Laporta. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to throw the ball, be aggressive. We should have seen that in the first and second quarter. Your 2-minute drill is how you guys need to play these games moving forward, especially getting into the playoffs. Because if you play like you played tonight in the playoffs, Lions, I'm sorry. You're not going to do it. You're not going to be the ones to get to the championship and potentially get to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. It's probably going to be a one and done. There's a lot that you can say about this game, and there's a lot that you can digest about in regards to stats and all that kind of stuff. But just looking at it from the surface level, it was a hell of a game. It was a good show for sure. Cowboys took it, no matter how you feel about it, no matter if you're mad or upset. The person that we probably should be mad about or mad at is Dan Campbell. That's just the reality of it. Dan Campbell did not coach properly in that game. He did not make the necessary adjustments when he needed to. He did not make sure that they kicked the field goal and take the points. He did not make sure that the linemen checked in as an eligible receiver. That's all on the coach. That's all on the coach. And unfortunately, when you don't have any timeouts and all that kind of stuff, I get it. You can use that as an excuse, but you probably want to make sure that he does that after you've already checked it down, or not checked it down, but you spike the ball and you stop that 2nd and 10 or whatever it is. And, at that point you make sure that he does, or make sure that he checks in. You're not going to call that play and just think you're going to get away with it. Right. You need to check in. So there's a lot of coaching issues there for Dan Campbell. I get him being mad and upset, showing the heart, the grit, the determination. It's a good thing. But the reality is, if you're not playing, or if you're not coaching at your best at the end of the game for the win, something like this is bound to happen. And then everyone's sitting on the side of sitting on the sidelines with their heads down because all these mistakes and everything that happened. So there you go. What a game it was. Cowboys take it. Shout out to them. I liked the game. I thought it was great. We get into these situations. Like I said, I didn't think it was going to be a high scoring game. It turned out that it was right in the middle. The over was ridiculous, 52.5. We were stuck at 7-3 at the first quarter. Like I said, things didn't really start coming together until the third. And there you go. Cowboys take it. By 20-19. So there it is. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Let me go ahead and address some of you guys. Jack, what up? What's going on with you, man? Marble Sky says that game. Listen, it was a hell of a one. It was a hell of a game for sure. James says, what up? What's going on with you? Jacob says, yo, Jay, you streaming the Bills? Just Bills and Patriots. Antonio, what up, man? What's going on with you? Bob says, say it with your chest. The refs get the credit for making the right call. Yeah, they made the right call. I'm not going to take anything from the ref. They made the right call. But how many times have we seen refs miss calls? How many times have we seen refs blow calls? How many times have we seen things get overlooked, and a team either wins or loses because of that fact? We've seen it hundreds of times. This is the one time where, when the play's completely over, you see this super late flag come out, and I'm assuming it's because they looked at this man. They're like, hold on, wait a minute. Did you check in? It was one of those situations. It wasn't like they seen him in the end zone catching the ball and threw the flag. It was like he caught the ball, he scored. Who the hell is that? And did they check in? And then they huddled up and had a conversation about it. So I get it. And I think that's why a lot of people are mad and upset about it. But hey, that's just the reality of it. He didn't check in. It's an illegal play. And you don't count it. At that point, me personally, if I'm coaching the team, I'm kicking the ball. And we go into overtime, and we just gonna have to thug it out and see who wins. Best team wins. It's just the reality of it. Royal says, "Hey Jay, I'm so happy the Eagles get to keep the second seed in NFC. Let's go, man." It's Antonio says, "Hey Jay, rough, very close game. That's a fact. Basketball kid, what up, man?" Darwin says, "Too depressed by Lions loss to watch the post game talk." Listen, you can't be depressed about it. You just got to understand what happened and, hope that they learn from the mistakes. And, Dan Campbell probably has to play more complimentary football. He has to probably be less of an aggressive coach when it matters the most. I love, being aggressive, but at the same time, I think at some point you have to sit back and say, okay, I understand that, they're not letting us push through. Nothing's working. And I've been given a second chance. I've been given a third chance. So let me go ahead and kick this field goal, take it to OT, and then we fight it out. It's just wild because obviously if it's Laporta, then we're not having this conversation. If it's, Gibbs, we're not having this conversation. If it's, St. Brown, we're not having this conversation. They chose to run that play, wide open lineman. And I feel like at some point the Cowboys probably knew that because this man was wide open in the end zone. He catches the ball. They're probably like, he didn't check in as an eligible receiver. What are we going to guard him for? And then he catches it and they're like, all right, whatever. It's just weird. It sucks. But unfortunately, you got to play by the rules. You got to play by the rules. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a change over and over again. Jake says we should have kicked the extra point to tie. Yeah, point blank. Point blank. That's a fact, man. Shout out to you, Eric. Says 65,500. We'll see. It's been a great month. It's New Year's Eve. That's really why I wanted to hop on here as well. I mean, I wanted to talk about the game, but I definitely wanted to hop on as well and, just chop it up with you guys. It's New Year's Eve. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing the Bills and the Patriots. After that, I'm going to be cooking and stuff and then, having a little party with the family and the woman and all that kind of stuff. And, so I'll be enjoying and watching some of the games from, not in front of the camera for once. But yeah, so obviously if I don't see some of you guys for the Patriots and Bills game, make sure you have, be safe out there, have a nice holiday with your family and your friends and, enjoy yourself responsibly. And, some people have asked about college games. I'm going to get into the college games, Monday. We'll get into the college bowl games on Monday, and then I'll do the national championship as well. And then we're getting into week 18. And then we'll start breaking down the playoffs because we'll have an exact idea as far as what's going on after week 18 in the playoffs. And after that, it gets crazy. Just like we had tonight, how it got a little crazy, 5,500 live at one point in the chat. We're getting to the point now where the numbers are starting to be, what they normally are when the season gets crazy. And I expect nothing different from the playoffs. So when we start getting, 8,000 people, 10,000 people in the chat, it's going to get a little crazy. But we'll try and, obviously keep it controlled as much as we can. But at some point, the chat just moves so fast that, you guys are just going to have to just enjoy the game for what it is. Speaking to the wrench gang specifically. The business, how can the NFL grow if the refs decide a game like that? What other sport has games decided like that by the officials? NBA. There's definitely all kinds of things that happen specifically with, other sports that, tie into some official or, some kind of ref making a decision. The NBA sees that as well. For sure. But the reality is this. The refs didn't really determine the game. We got to keep it real. Unfortunately, he didn't check in as an eligible receiver because if he did, it would have had to be announced. And the fact that it wasn't announced means that he didn't check in. And so by him not being announced, you'll have a situation where the defense isn't really paying attention to him because they don't think he's going to catch the ball regardless. So in fact, it's actually a kind of cheap play if you can get away with it. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's what they were trying to do, right? I'm not going to make that accusation, But what I will say is, if you use a lineman to catch the ball, you have to make sure that they check in and be an eligible receiver before they can touch the ball. And unfortunately, they didn't do that. So the question is at this point, all right, let's say they didn't call the flag. There's going to be people freaking out because if they find out that he didn't register as an eligible receiver, then the play was illegal and the point shouldn't have caught. So it goes both ways. You can't just have it one way. And it's really unfortunate. So at the end of the day, you just have to blame it on Dan Campbell because he didn't coach correctly. He didn't make the right decisions the whole entire game. He didn't make the necessary adjustments that he needs to. And I think he didn't come prepared. I think he expected the Cowboys to maybe roll over or maybe not be ready. And they just really didn't have a proper game plan going into this, kind of like the Bills did or like Miami did, where they knew what they were going to do against the Cowboys. I've seen a lot of plays that didn't make sense. I've seen a lot of situations that scratch my head on the live because I'm sitting here. I'm like, well, why in the hell would you go and keep passing the ball when you know the run's working? What are you doing? And then, you get into this situation where it was so many third downs and you're not converting because you're still deciding to try and pass the ball on a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Run the ball. The run was working. Get Gibbs going, get Montgomery going, and then you get yourself some first downs. And then when they did it, it was working. So I don't know. Listen, we get into these conversations as far as, bad plays and bad coaching and situational moments and all that kind of stuff. I think the reality is this. Dan Campbell didn't prepare his team to go out there and win. And he was trying to do something probably that he didn't prepare for. And that's what I'm going to chop it up as. So, yeah. Hopping into some of these comments. Shout out to Lenny on Facebook, yo. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Patty says they claim he did check in. I'm sure this is going to be a big discussion tomorrow morning for sure. If he did check in, then, the refs wouldn't have huddled up and, threw that flag because it's normally announced when that kind of situation happens. Basketball kids to the Cowboys fans are happy. Oh yeah, without a doubt. They should be. They got the win. The reality is a win's a win. Jacob says my Lions got screwed. You gotta blame Campbell. You gotta blame Campbell. Becky says Dallas again, bad clock management. McCarthy sucks. There's a lot of blame that can go around on both sides. Dak Prescott still just, I don't know what it is, but he gets into these situations, tries to force things, and then, walks off the field with that deer in the headlights look. He took a bunch of sacks tonight. It was really weird. I think on both sides there was bad coaching. There was a lot of, let's just go out here and, try to see what's going to work as far as the pass. Because like I said, Dak had a couple great passes that went. He had to get out of the pocket and run a couple times, get out of trouble, throw it deep, find the open man, which was good. But what happened to the O-line, right? Dak used to have a ton of time back there to make decisions. And, he didn't have much time tonight. He didn't have much time tonight at all. So that's something to look into as well. I can look at how many yards Pollard got on the run. I'll look at that right now just to basically see see the stats here for these guys. All right, here we go. Box score. So Prescott was 26 of 38, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. Goff was 19 of 34, 271 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interception. He was 1 sack for 7 yards. As far as Pollard, he had 16 carries for 49 yards, no touchdowns. Montgomery had 14 carries for 65, 1 touchdown. Gibbs had 15 carries for 43 yards. His longest 17. But CeeDee Lamb completely killed tonight. Like, oh my goodness. He was targeted 17 times. He had 13 receptions, 227 yards, one touchdown. His long was 92. Brandon Cooks came up as well, right? He was targeted 8 times, 5 receptions, 60 yards, one touchdown. His long was 21. Um, so yeah, I mean, when the Dallas Cowboys are clicking, they're clicking, and when he can get them the ball and he has that time to do it, and he's not pressured. You see a great offense, a great chemistry with this Dallas team. Now, whether or not that translated to the win, sure, we're gonna say they won by 1 point, 20-19. I think the big thing for me, what I take out of this is the sloppiness in the defense. Right? Sure, you got 2 picks, um, but you allowed 295 yards as far as on passing. You allowed 125 on rushing. While the defense on the Lions only allowed 61 yards on rushing, and you had to go to the air a lot, 345 yards for Dallas, and then 302 for the Lions. So, Dallas defense needs to basically look at what's going on, figure out the issues they're having. Because going into the playoffs, this is the Lions, right? This ain't the 49ers. This ain't the Eagles. This is the Lions. And if you had trouble beating the Lions at home and you won by 1 point, you're going to have real problems when it comes to the Rams, when it comes to the Eagles, and when it comes to the 49ers. And obviously, we don't know who's going to play who yet in the playoffs, but things could get very interesting depending on who they play in the first round. For sure. Ernie Browns, did you hear that? Georgia just scored again. Goodness. Jordan R says still multiple missed holding calls on Lions against Parsons. Thought he played a heck of a game. Yeah, he did. There was a few times that he made some mistakes. I think he jumped the line a couple times, and obviously no player is perfect, but I think at his level, he's a very skilled player. He's an elite level player. So you really probably shouldn't see so many mistakes, especially at crucial time, right? First quarter through the third quarter, when things are kind of just momentum swings and this, that, and the third, right? You can forgive a person for that. But if you got a situation where you're up by 4, the score is 17-13, and a team's trying to drive and you jump off sides, that's sloppy play. That's sloppy play, for you being at an elite level, and you just can't have that. You just can't have it. Shout out to the Miz, says Jay. I really wanted the Arms of an Angel video. I might have to make it for Dan Campbell, man. I might have to. Rick says they did it to themselves. I wanted the Lions to win, but it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that we can sit here and make any kind of mistake or make any kind of excuse for the Lions' mistakes, right? That's all coaching. And at the end of the day, if you just have him check in as eligible, you win the game. Point blank, you win the game. He checks in, you guys win the game. And that's a coaching error. Someone said that they claim that they did it. Well, you have 4 or 5 refs huddling up, so they didn't. So there you go. Says Jay with the facts. Yeah, man. Yeah, without a doubt. Stewart says Lambs of my fantasy championship team couldn't believe what I was watching. Yeah, I think we did the stream earlier in the day. We did like a little pregame stream, and we basically went through everything as far as, what we expected in the game. And I think at the end of the day, I told everybody the over was 52.5. And I was like, well, they're saying, oh, it's going to be this high scoring game. I don't feel it is. I went with Dallas by 7 in the under. And just because 9 times out of 10, when we think it's going to be a shootout, it turns into these kind of situations, and we're all sitting here like, well, hell, why is this game 7-3 in the end of the first quarter? Well, both defenses definitely stepped up, right? And I'll give credit where credit is due. It was a defensive battle for the most part, but I will say there was also a lot of sloppy play as well, because I think both these teams are better than what they played tonight. Right? It's kind of weird. I don't know if it's like, oh, it's just end of the year vibes. I don't know. But, the Lions are better than this. The Cowboys are better than this. And we probably should have had a way better game than what we had, being at 20-19. For sure. Smassy says, take number 88 jersey. Here we go. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb. That man's balling out. 227 yards on 13 receptions. I mean, at that point, you're not, you can't ask for any more than that. That's an elite play. That's an elite level player, balling out there, for sure. That is for sure. Says why the NFL has sloppy play. Well, we were having that conversation earlier, like I said, in regards to bad play calling, bad preparation. And I think it boils down to really not understanding as far as, what it takes to beat your opponent, doing your homework, spending the proper time reading the defensive coverages, reading, not just, from last week or 2 weeks, but actually breaking down what made, specific players good. What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? What pieces do you have on the puzzle? You guys know how this works. It's like chess. You got to understand how to utilize certain pieces for certain roles and understand how your opponent's playing the game. And if you're not doing that and you're playing sloppy football, you have these kind of situations. And I think that's what happened with the Lions tonight. I think that's what happened. Guy says they weren't quarterbacky enough tonight. Yeah. Yeah, Goff wasn't quarterbacky enough tonight. Flacco handling business? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Becky says defenders need to wrap up the ball carrier. 100%. 100%. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's New Year's Eve. I did want to hop on, do the post game show with you guys, and just chop it up. Help some people understand like what's really going on as far as with the call and things like that, so they didn't either go to sleep mad or upset. I mean, there's probably still going to be mad and upset, but the reality is, it was an illegal play. The refs made the right call, and it's just the reality of it. At the end of the day, Dan Campbell is he's going to have to answer for this. I'm going to try and see if there is a press conference. He made some really, really bad decisions this game. And I think he's going to go back and look at the tape himself and be like, man, I messed up there. I should have kicked the field goal early on in the game. I should have kicked the field goal later on in the game when I was given multiple chances to do it. And at the end of the day, I didn't do it. So he's gonna have to take some accountability for this himself for sure. Shout out to Coach. What up, Coach? Shout out T-Man. Says good defense efforts will make both teams not look as good for sure. Yeah. So you take the good defensive efforts and then you mix in some bad play calling, and I'm not going to say he's a bad coach, but bad coaching in this game, and you have a nightmare. You have a nightmare on both sides for sure. Shout out to Royal. Says, Jay, can you say that for me one time? I'm not saying that tonight. I'm about to get up out of here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to you guys for rocking with us. I'll see you all tomorrow for the Patriots and the Bills. Make sure you lock it in. And you guys have a good night. Much love. Peace out.